The billionaire's son was born paralyzed, and no doctor could find the cause, until the maid's little daughter discovered a shocking truth hidden for years that left the entire family in tears. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Ashford mansion, casting long shadows across the marble floors. William Ashford stood at his office window, watching the garden below with tired eyes. At 34, he'd built an empire that most men only dream of, but none of it mattered, not anymore. Down in the garden, his son Ethan sat in his wheelchair, staring at the fountain with the same longing William had seen every day for 8 years. 8 long years since the boy was born. 8 years of questions without answers. "Mr. Ashford." Maria's soft voice broke through his thoughts. His housekeeper stood in the doorway, wringing her hands nervously. "I was wondering if Sophie could play in the garden today, with Ethan." William turned slowly. Maria had worked for him for 7 years now, always quiet, always careful. Her daughter Sophie was 7, born just months after Maria started working here. The little blonde girl with bright green eyes, who somehow wasn't afraid of his son like other children were. The garden. William's voice was rough from lack of sleep. "Maria, you know Ethan can't—" "I know, sir, but Sophie asked if she could push him around, just for an hour. Please." Maria's eyes were pleading. "Ethan hasn't smiled in weeks. Not since Dr. Patterson said there was nothing more he could do." The words hit William like a punch to the gut. Dr. Patterson, the 15th specialist, the 15th time hearing, "I'm sorry, Mr. Ashford, but we just don't understand why your son can't walk. There's no medical reason. His spine is perfect. His nerves are intact." It's as if something just stopped working before he was born. Before he was born, when Claire was still alive. William closed his eyes, seeing his wife's face. Beautiful Claire, who died bringing Ethan into this world. The doctors said it was sudden, unexpected, a complication they couldn't explain. Just like they couldn't explain why their son would never walk. "All right," William heard himself say. 1 hour. Maria's face lit up. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." 20 minutes later, William watched from his window as Sophie ran into the garden, her blonde hair bouncing in the sunlight. She went straight to Ethan, kneeling beside his wheelchair without hesitation. "Hey, Ethan," her young voice carried up to the window. "Guess what? My mom said we can explore the whole garden today, even the old part by the back wall that nobody goes to." Ethan's face transformed. A smile, a real smile, spread across his features. "Really? But that part is all muddy and gross." "So what? We'll get muddy. Come on." Sophie grabbed the wheelchair handles and started pushing, both children laughing. William felt something crack in his chest. When was the last time he'd heard his son laugh? He was about to turn away when something caught his eye. In the far corner of the garden, where the old stone wall stood covered in ivy, Sophie had stopped the wheelchair. She was pointing at something on the ground, her small face suddenly serious. William leaned closer to the window, squinting. What was she looking at? Sophie knelt down in the mud, digging at something with her small hands. Ethan leaned forward in his chair, watching intently. Then Sophie pulled something from the earth, something small and dark that glinted in the sunlight. Even from this distance, William could see the girl's expression change. She looked up at Ethan, then back at the object in her muddy hands. Her mouth formed words William couldn't hear. But he could see Ethan's face go pale. Whatever Sophie had found in that mud, whatever she was holding in her small hands, it had just changed everything. William could feel it in his bones, the same way he'd felt it the night Claire died. Something terrible was buried in that garden, and a 7-year-old girl had just dug it up. William's feet moved before his mind caught up. He was running, actually running, through the mansion halls, down the grand staircase and out into the garden. His heart hammered against his ribs as he approached the old stone wall. Sophie looked up at him with those enormous green eyes, mud streaked across her cheeks. In her small, dirty hands she held a locket, silver, tarnished black with age and earth, but unmistakably expensive. The kind of jewelry Claire used to wear. "Mr. Ashford," Sophie whispered, her voice trembling. "Ethan says this belonged to his mama." William's knees nearly gave out. He knelt beside the wheelchair, taking the locket from Sophie's hands with shaking fingers. He knew this piece. He'd given it to Claire on their wedding day. She wore it every single day after that. Until... "They told me she was wearing it when she died," William's voice cracked. "They said they buried her with it." "Dad?" Ethan's voice was small, frightened. "Why would Mama's necklace be buried in our garden?" William couldn't answer. His thumb found the tiny clasp, and the locket sprang open. Inside, just as he remembered, were two photographs. One of him, one of Claire, her blonde hair shining in the sun, her smile radiant. But there was something else. A tiny piece of paper, folded so small it was almost invisible, tucked behind Claire's photo. Sophie leaned closer. "What is it?" William's hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. The handwriting was Claire's. He'd recognize it anywhere. Just 3 words, written in desperate, shaky letters. "Help me, please." The world tilted. William looked up at the mansion, at the windows where he'd stood so many times, at the walls that had been his home for a decade. Suddenly, it all felt sinister, dark, wrong. "Sophie," he managed to say, his voice barely audible. "Where exactly did you find this?" The little girl pointed to the hole she'd dug, then traced a line with her finger along the wall. "There's more stuff buried here, Mr. Ashford. I felt something hard when I was digging, like a box or something." William's blood ran cold. "Maria!" he called out, his voice sharp with panic. "Maria, get out here now!" The housekeeper came running, her face pale with worry. "Sir, what's wrong? Take Ethan inside, now, and Sophie—" He looked at the little girl, this brave, curious child who'd just unearthed something terrible. "Sophie, you need to go with your mother, right now." "But Mr. Ashford," Sophie started. "Please." William's eyes were wild. "Just go, both of you. Lock yourselves in Maria's quarters and don't come out until I come get you." Maria saw the locket in his hands, saw his expression, and understood something was very wrong. She grabbed Sophie's hand and started pushing Ethan's wheelchair toward the house, moving fast. William turned back to the wall, to the hole in the mud. His wife's locket had been buried here, hidden, with a note begging for help. He dropped to his knees and started digging with his bare hands, mud caking under his fingernails, his expensive suit ruined. He didn't care. He had to know. His fingers hit something solid, wood rotted and soft with age, a box, just like Sophie said. With a strength born of desperation, William pulled it free from the earth. It was small, the size of a shoebox, falling apart in his hands. He pried open the lid. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all in Claire's handwriting, all addressed to him. Letters he had never received. William's vision blurred with tears as he grabbed the first one, dated 8 years ago, 1 month before Ethan was born. "William, my darling," it began, "if you're reading this, then something terrible has happened." William sat on the muddy ground, letters scattered around him like fallen leaves. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the pages, but he forced himself to read, forced himself to understand. The first letter was dated October 15th, 8 years ago. Claire had been 8 months pregnant. "William, my darling, if you're reading this, then something terrible has happened. I'm writing this in secret, hiding it away because I don't know who to trust anymore, not even the staff, especially not her. 3 days ago, I found something in Dr. Morrison's bag when he came for my checkup. Pills. Not the vitamins he said he was giving me. I looked them up, William. They're muscle relaxants, strong ones. The kind that can cross the placental barrier. I confronted him and he smiled. Actually smiled. He said I was paranoid, that pregnancy hormones were making me imagine things. But I'm not imagining this. I feel weak all the time now. The baby barely moves anymore. Something is wrong and Dr. Morrison knows what it is. I tried calling you at the office 12 times yesterday. Your secretary said you were in meetings. But William, I know your schedule. You didn't have meetings. Where are you? I'm scared. I'm writing these letters and hiding them because I think someone is intercepting our communication. I think someone is trying to... The letter ended abruptly, as if she'd been interrupted. William's chest heaved with sobs. Dr. Morrison, their family physician, the man who'd delivered Ethan, the man who'd been there when Claire died, the man who'd said it was just an unfortunate complication, unexpected, nothing anyone could have done. With trembling hands, William reached for the next letter, dated 5 days later. William, I'm writing this quickly. She was here again today. Your secretary, Victoria. She came to the house, said she needed you to sign some papers, but you weren't here. You're never here anymore. She stayed for tea, insisted on it. And after she left, I felt sick, so sick. The room was spinning. I barely made it upstairs before I collapsed. William, I think she's poisoning me. I think she's been poisoning me for months, and Dr. Morrison is helping her. Please, if you find these letters, please believe me. I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. Our baby. Something is wrong with our baby, and they did this. But why? Why would they do this? I heard them talking once when they thought I was asleep. Victoria said something about once the baby is born and she's gone. Gone where, William? What are they planning? I've hidden my wedding locket with these letters. If something happens to me, please find it. Please find the truth. And please, my love, protect our son. William couldn't breathe. Victoria, his secretary. She'd been with him for 15 years. Efficient, professional, always there when he needed her. She'd helped him through Claire's death, managed everything when he couldn't function. She'd been at the funeral, tears streaming down her face. She'd been lying the entire time. Another letter, dated the day before Ethan was born. This will be my last letter. I can feel it. The baby isn't moving at all now. Dr. Morrison says we need to induce labor tomorrow. Victoria will be here. She insisted on being present to support you, she told you, but you don't see it, do you? You don't see the way she looks at you, the way she's looked at you for years. I finally understand now. She's in love with you, William. She's been in love with you since before we met, and she can't stand that I exist. That our baby exists. Whatever she and Dr. Morrison gave me, it damaged our son. I can feel it. And now they're going to finish what they started. If I don't survive tomorrow, and I don't think I will, please know that I love you. I've always loved you. And please, please save our boy. Don't let them win. Don't let them take you from Ethan. The truth is buried here, under the old wall, where we planted our first rose bush together, remember? You said this spot would always be ours. Find the truth, my love, and make them pay. Forever yours, Claire. William's scream tore through the garden, raw and primal. Birds scattered from the trees. The locket fell from his hands into the mud. Victoria, Dr. Morrison, they'd killed his wife. They'd crippled his son before he was even born. And for 8 years, William had trusted them both. William burst through the mansion doors, mud-covered and wild-eyed. The letters were clutched against his chest, protected in a plastic bag he'd grabbed from the garden shed. Evidence. He needed evidence. "Get me Detective Harrison on the phone," he barked at James, his butler, who nearly jumped out of his skin. "Now." "Sir, are you all right? You're covered in—" "Now, James!" William's voice echoed through the marble halls. As James scrambled for the phone, William's mind raced. Victoria was still his secretary. She came to the house 3 times a week to handle his personal affairs. She'd been here yesterday, with Ethan. The thought made his blood freeze. He took the stairs 3 at a time, running toward Maria's quarters. He pounded on the door. "Maria, open up! It's me!" The door cracked open, Maria's frightened face appearing in the gap. "Mr. Ashford, what's happening? You're scaring us." "Is Ethan okay? Has he eaten anything today? Drunk anything?" Maria's eyes widened. "Just breakfast. Toast and orange juice. I made it myself." "Why? Sir, what's going on?" William pushed past her into the small suite. Ethan was on the couch, Sophie sitting beside him, both children pale and silent. They'd heard him screaming in the garden. He knelt in front of his son, taking the boy's face in his muddy hands. "Ethan, listen to me very carefully. Has Miss Victoria given you anything to eat or drink lately? Any medicine? Anything at all?" Ethan's eyes grew wide. She gave me vitamins yesterday, said they'd help me get stronger, make my legs work better." The room tilted. William felt Maria's hand on his shoulder, steadying him. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Where are the vitamins?" Ethan pointed to his nightstand. "In my room, the bottle's on." William was already running. He found the bottle, small and amber-colored, labeled with Ethan's name and Dr. Morrison's signature on the prescription. He unscrewed the cap and poured 1 pill into his palm. It looked normal, just a regular vitamin, but he knew better now. "Mr. Ashford," James called from downstairs. "Detective Harrison is on the line." William ran back down, leaving muddy footprints on the pristine floors. He grabbed the phone. "Tom, it's William Ashford. I need you at my house immediately, and bring your forensics team." "William, what's this about? You sound—" "My wife was murdered." The words felt like glass in his throat. 8 years ago. They made it look like childbirth complications, but she was poisoned, and they're trying to poison my son. There was a long pause. "William, are you sure? That's a serious accusation. Who's they?" "My secretary and my family doctor. I have proof. Letters. My wife wrote letters before she died, warning me. They're still doing it, Tom. They're still trying to kill my son. Stay where you are. Don't eat or drink anything. Don't let anyone in the house. I'm 15 minutes away." The line went dead. William turned to find Maria standing at the bottom of the stairs. Sophie clutched against her side. The little girl's eyes were huge with fear. "Maria, take the children to your quarters. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or the police." "Sir, Victoria called 10 minutes ago. She said she's coming by at 3 o'clock. She said she has important papers for you to sign." William looked at the grandfather clock in the hall. It was 2:47. "When she gets here," he said slowly, his voice cold as ice, "tell her I'm in my study. Tell her I'm waiting for her." Maria understood. She grabbed both children and rushed upstairs. William walked to his study, sat down at his desk, and pulled out the top drawer. Inside was a gun he'd bought years ago for protection. He'd never fired it. He checked the chamber. Loaded. At precisely 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. Through the study window, William could see her, Victoria, tall, elegant, dressed in a crisp business suit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a perfect bun. She looked professional, trustworthy. She looked like a murderer. William heard James open the door, heard Victoria's cheerful voice. "Hello, James. Beautiful day, isn't it? Is Mr. Ashford available?" "In his study, Miss Victoria." Footsteps approached, high heels clicking on marble. The sound that had been part of his life for 15 years. The sound of the woman who'd killed his wife. Victoria knocked softly, then opened the door, that familiar professional smile on her face. "William, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I have those acquisition papers you needed to—" She stopped. The smile vanished. William was pointing the gun directly at her heart. "Sit down, Victoria," he said quietly. "We need to talk about Claire." Victoria's face went deathly pale, but she didn't move toward the chair. Instead, her eyes darted to the door, calculating escape routes. "I wouldn't," William said, his voice deadly calm. "James has locked all the exits, and the police are already on their way." "William, what on earth?" "Sit down." Something in his tone made her obey. She sank into the leather chair across from his desk, her hands gripping the armrests. For the first time in 15 years, Victoria looked frightened. William reached into his desk drawer with his free hand and pulled out the plastic bag containing Claire's letters. He tossed it across the desk. It landed in front of Victoria with a soft thud. "Read them," he commanded, out loud. Victoria's eyes fixed on the letters, and her face transformed. The professional mask cracked, revealing something ugly underneath. Rage, pure, burning rage. "Where did you find these?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Answer my question. Did you kill my wife?" The silence stretched between them like a knife blade. Then, incredibly, Victoria laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "Kill her? Oh, William, you still don't understand, do you? After all these years. Then explain it to me." William's finger tightened on the trigger. "Explain why you poisoned the woman I loved. Explain why you damaged my son. Explain why I shouldn't end your life right now." Victoria leaned back in her chair, and something shifted in her expression. The fear was gone, replaced by something almost like relief, as if she'd been waiting for this moment for 8 years. "Because I loved you," she said simply. I loved you from the moment I started working for you. 23 years old, fresh out of business school, and there you were, brilliant, ambitious, kind, everything I'd ever wanted." William's jaw clenched. "So you killed her? Because you were in love with me?" "I watched you with her." Victoria's voice grew sharp. "Every day for 5 years, I watched you look at her the way I wished you'd look at me. I brought you coffee every morning, managed your entire life, made you successful, but you never saw me, never once." "You're insane." "Maybe." Victoria's eyes glittered. "Or maybe I was just tired of being invisible. When she got pregnant, I knew I was losing you forever. You'd be the perfect family, father, mother, child, and I'd still be just the secretary. So you and Dr. Morrison owed me a favor." Victoria smiled, cold and cruel. "His gambling debts were destroying him. I paid them off. In exchange, he did what I asked. The muscle relaxants, carefully dosed throughout the pregnancy, not enough to kill the baby, but enough to damage it, to make it weak, dependent." William's hand shook so badly he nearly dropped the gun. "You wanted my son to suffer, an innocent child. I wanted you to need me." Victoria stood up suddenly, her voice rising. "With Claire gone and the baby damaged, who else would you turn to? I'd be there for you. I'd help you through everything. Eventually you'd finally see me. You're a monster. I'm a woman who loved you." Victoria's composure finally shattered completely. Tears streamed down her face. "Everything I did for us. Claire was supposed to die in childbirth. Morrison arranged it. A blood clot, untraceable, quick. But somehow she survived just long enough to write those damn letters." William's blood roared in his ears. "She was alive after Ethan was born. For 6 minutes." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "She woke up during the delivery, looked at Morrison, and she knew. She looked right at him and said your name, begged him to tell you the truth. So he gave her an overdose of morphine and made sure she never spoke again." The gun wavered in William's hand. 6 minutes. Claire had been alive for 6 minutes and no one had told him. No one had let him say goodbye. "And you've been giving Ethan the same drugs," he said hoarsely, "keeping him paralyzed all these years. Just weak enough to need constant care, just damaged enough that you'd never marry again, never have another child. You'd focus on him, on trying to fix him, and I'd be right there beside you, forever." William stood up slowly, the gun steady now. You took everything from me, my wife, my son's future, 8 years of his life. I gave you my life, Victoria screamed. Every day for 15 years? Doesn't that mean anything? The sound of sirens filled the air. Through the window, William could see police cars pulling into the circular driveway, their lights flashing red and blue. Victoria heard them too. Her face crumpled. William, please. I love you. I've always loved you. We can still... Get out of my sight, William said quietly, before I forget that I'm not a murderer like you. The study door burst open. Detective Harrison rushed in, 3 officers behind him, guns drawn. William, step back, drop the weapon. William carefully placed the gun on the desk. He pointed at Victoria, who had collapsed into the chair, sobbing. Her name is Victoria Chambers. She conspired with Dr. Richard Morrison to murder my wife 8 years ago. She's been systematically poisoning my son ever since. You'll find evidence in that bag on the desk and a bottle of contaminated vitamins in Ethan's bedroom. As officers surrounded Victoria, reading her rights while she wept, William walked to the window. In the garden, he could see the hole by the stone wall, the place where truth had been buried for so long. A small figure appeared at his side. Sophie, having somehow escaped Maria's watchful eye, slipped her tiny hand into his. Mr. Ashford, her voice was small. Is Ethan going to be okay now? William looked down at this brave little girl who'd changed everything. He tried to smile, but tears were streaming down his face. I don't know, sweetheart, he whispered. But we're going to find out. 3 days after Victoria's arrest, William stood in Dr. Sarah Chen's office at Boston Children's Hospital, the top neurological research facility in the country. Ethan was downstairs undergoing his 5th round of tests, Sophie sitting loyally beside his bed, holding his hand. Mr. Ashford, Dr. Chen said gently, pulling up images on her computer screen. I need you to understand something before we discuss treatment options. William braced himself. He'd been preparing for this moment since Detective Harrison's forensics team confirmed that the vitamins Victoria had been giving Ethan contained high doses of curare derivatives, powerful muscle relaxants that, given over years, had prevented his neural pathways from developing properly. Your son's condition, Doctor, Chen continued, pointing at the brain scans, is unlike anything I've seen in 30 years of practice. The drugs he was given didn't damage his spine or muscles. They damaged the neural pathways between his brain and his body. The signals simply never learned to form correctly. Can you fix it? William's voice was raw. He hadn't slept in 3 days. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Normally, no. After 8 years, the window for neural development is essentially closed. Most children in this situation would be paralyzed for life. William's heart sank. Normally? However, Dr. Chen's expression brightened. Your son is extraordinary. We've been running tests on his cognitive function, his brain activity, his response to stimuli. William, Ethan's brain is completely healthy. More than healthy, it's brilliant. He's been compensating for his physical limitations by developing other neural pathways at an advanced rate. His problem-solving abilities, his spatial reasoning, his memory, they're all off the charts. I don't understand. How does that help him walk? Dr. Chen pulled up another image. There's a new treatment, experimental. It combines intense physical therapy with electrical neural stimulation and a specialized drug regimen that encourages neural pathway development. We've had success with younger children, but never anyone Ethan's age. But you think it might work? I think Ethan's brain is plastic enough that it might work. But William, I need you to understand what this means. The treatment would take months, possibly years. It would be painful, exhausting. There's no guarantee of success. And even if it works, he may never walk normally. He might manage a few steps with support. He might need braces or canes for life. William closed his eyes. What are the alternatives? He stays in the wheelchair, lives a full life otherwise. Many people with paralysis lead happy, successful lives. Does Ethan know about this treatment? I spoke with him this morning. Dr. Chen smiled softly. That little girl, Sophie, was holding his hand, and do you know what he said? William shook his head, unable to speak. He said, "Will it hurt?" I told him yes, probably a lot, and he said, "I don't care. I want to stand next to my dad. I want to hug him without him having to bend down. I want to walk to my mom's grave and tell her I'm okay. William, your son is the bravest 8-year-old I've ever met." Tears streamed down William's face. When can we start? There's something else you need to know. Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. Dr. Morrison was arrested yesterday. He's been cooperating with the investigation, trying to reduce his sentence. He admitted to everything: the dosages he gave your wife during pregnancy, the morphine he used to kill her, the prescription drugs he's been providing Victoria for 8 years. Good. I hope he rots in prison. He also admitted something else. Dr. Chen hesitated. Victoria Chambers has been increasing the drug dosages recently. In the past 6 months, the amounts have tripled. Morrison warned her it was dangerous, that it could cause permanent brain damage or even death, but she insisted. She told him you were starting to pull away from her, that you'd been mentioning dating again. William felt sick. She was trying to kill him, or at least ensure he'd never recover. Morrison thinks if Sophie hadn't found those letters when she did, Ethan would have had a fatal seizure within the month. The drug levels in his blood were approaching toxic levels. William had to sit down. Sophie. That brave, beautiful little girl who played in the mud without fear, who held his son's hand, who dug up the truth that saved Ethan's life. Dr. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. If we start this treatment, if Ethan does the therapy, what are his real chances? Not the optimistic version, the truth. Dr. Chen met his eyes directly. 20%, maybe 25 if we're lucky. But William, even a 20% chance is a miracle given where we started 3 days ago. 20%, 1 in 5. William thought of Claire, buried under the earth for 8 years. Her truth hidden beside her. He thought of Ethan, who'd spent his entire life in a wheelchair because of one woman's twisted obsession. He thought of Sophie, 7 years old, who'd somehow known to dig in exactly the right spot. Let's do it, he said firmly. 20% is better than 0. Dr. Chen smiled. I'll begin preparing the treatment protocol. But there's one more thing, William, something I think you should know. What? When I was examining Ethan, I asked him what he wanted most in the world. Do you know what he said? William shook his head. He said he wanted to walk Sophie to school one day. Just once. He said she deserves to have a friend who can keep up with her. William's chest tightened. Dr. Chen, whatever this treatment costs, it's experimental, so insurance won't cover it. We're looking at approximately $500,000 for the first year alone. I don't care if it costs 10 million. Do whatever it takes to help my son walk. As William left Dr. Chen's office, he thought about the road ahead. Months of painful therapy, years of uncertainty, a 20% chance that seemed impossibly small and impossibly precious at the same time. But for the first time in 8 years, they had something they'd never had before. They had hope, and sometimes hope is enough to change everything. The therapy room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Ethan lay on the treatment table, electrodes attached to his legs, his small body trembling. Ready? Dr. Chen asked gently. William stood against the wall, fists clenched. 3 weeks of treatment, and they'd seen minimal progress. Watching his son scream in pain 3 times daily was destroying him. Sophie sat cross-legged on the floor, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Maria had tried keeping her away, but Sophie insisted. Ethan needs me, she'd said, with absolute certainty. Ethan nodded, reaching for Sophie's hand. She jumped up and squeezed it tight. Dr. Chen activated the machine. Ethan's scream tore through William's heart. The electrical pulses forced his leg muscles to contract after 8 years of stillness, pure agony. 10 seconds, Dr. Chen counted down. 9, 8. When it ended, Ethan collapsed, sobbing. Sophie climbed beside him, still holding his hand. "You're so brave," she whispered fiercely. "The bravest person I know." "Good initial response," Dr. Chen noted. "We'll do this 3 times daily for 6 months. 6 months. William wondered if any of them would survive it. That evening, William found Maria making soup. She looked exhausted from driving Sophie to the hospital daily. "Maria, this isn't fair to Sophie. She should be playing, being a normal 7-year-old. Maria's jaw set stubbornly. "She wants to be there, sir. I've tried keeping her home. She cries. But why does she care so much?" Maria was quiet, stirring the soup. "Do you remember when I started working here? I told you I had excellent references." "I remember. They were fake. I was running from Sophie's father. He was violent. I had nothing." Maria's voice cracked. "Your wife found out. She could have fired me, had me arrested. Instead, she helped me hide, helped me get custody. She saved our lives." William stared. "Claire never told me. She wouldn't. That's who she was." Maria wiped her eyes. "When she died, I was there in those last moments. She said, 'Take care of my boys.' Not boys, like she knew Sophie would matter." William's vision blurred. "I didn't know. So no, I won't keep Sophie away from Ethan, because Claire would have wanted her there." Upstairs, Sophie had fallen asleep in Ethan's room. The boy was awake, staring at the ceiling. William sat on the bed. "How are you feeling?" "It hurts, but Dad, today I felt my toes, just for a second, but I felt them. That's good, son, really good." "Do you think Mom would be proud?" William took his hand. "She'd be bursting with pride, just like I am. Even though I'm scared all the time. Being brave means doing hard things even when you're terrified." "Your mom taught me that." Ethan smiled sleepily. "Sophie says Mom is watching from heaven. Do you think that's true?" William looked at the sleeping girl, the child who'd found truth buried in mud, who held his son through unimaginable pain. "Yeah," he whispered, "I think that's true. 3 months into treatment." Ethan could wiggle his toes, feel sensation in his feet, but couldn't move his legs, couldn't stand, couldn't walk. "Maybe we should increase stimulation intensity," William suggested desperately. Dr. Chen shook her head. "We're at maximum safe levels. William, I need honesty. At this rate, Ethan won't walk. Not meaningfully." The words hit like a death sentence.